Okay, we're online again. Apologies for that loss of service halfway through there. We'll go back to Tariq and start again from the beginning of the introduction to Ugarit, if that's okay.
Yeah. So Ugarit is a translation alignment editor for manual alignment to create training data for the automatic alignment system. As you can see here, we have a network of languages. We have the big corpus is the ancient Greek one and the English. We have also the Farsi corpus. Here we can see the users who we have 28 languages in our repository, about 22,000 aligned texts, about 350,000 translation pairs on 61 active users using the tool. Here we can see the automatic alignment created by the software Giza++ at the Taft University in Boston. And here we see the users, Maryam, Foradi, who aligned German, Persian, English, and ancient Greek, and Maya Shkrubeli, who worked on the Georgian and ancient Greek. And here we see the new alignments added by the user to the tool. And here we can see the language pairs. We have ancient Greek English, Farsi English, Georgian, Latin. See some examples of the alignment. If we go here we can see some ancient Greek, Georgian alignment. The tool is provided also by transliteration schema for the most of the languages. If you click on transliterate, so you will get your text transliterated. And here you can, if you cannot read Georgian alphabet, so just click, and then you get the text transliterated with alignment. The tool is very easy to use, but first you need to create an account. So go to new account, put your name, email, and select username and password. Then you will get an email, an activation email in your inbox. Please click on the link, and then your account will be activated. Then you will be able to log in. I will log in just to show you how to use the tool. When you log in, you will find your dashboard. Here you can see the last modified texts. If you want to create text group, just put like text group, then the group will be created. You will find it here. If you want to start to align the text, click on Translation Alignment Editor, New Alignment. Then you will get this interface. Select the language. I will use a simple example of Bible, English and German translation. So here we have the English text. Select English, German, or if you have CTS URN, just copy and paste the URN and click on fetch, then the text will be uploaded here. We are using the only Leipzig CTS repository. When the text is ready, then click on Align. You will be directed to this interface. But you need to write Untitled, for example, text, the text group, the one text group transliterated by X. For example, here we can see if the text is visible or not. If you want to make your alignment public, so you can select yes. If it's not no, so no one will see the alignment, only you will be able to see it. Here we have the URL description, blah, blah, blah. Then when you want to start the alignment, just click on the word on it is translation. Then the word its translation was born, for example, Foradi born in. So here you can see the translation pairs. If you want to delete anything, just delete, or you can click on reset, so everything will be reset. This tool supports one-to-one alignment, one-to-many, many-to-one, and many-to-many. For example, if we want to use many-to-one, here we have, or if we want to use many-to-many, we can, for example, on the same one-to-many. So, and once you align everything, then you click on Save to Database. So then the text will be saved. If you go to the main page, you will see your alignment here. Click, so if we want to align 3 languages, also it's the same. Copy and paste your text. For example, and select languages. So here it makes no sense. We have 2 translations in English, but just, for example, here it might be Arabic or Persian or Bulgarian or Italian or any text. Yeah, it's the same way. Click on the word and 3 languages. So sometimes we just want to align word from the first sentence with the third one, and there is no correspondence in the second one. So just click on that. As you can see, here we have geboren here and was born in the third sentence, or here with the second language, or just the second sentence and the third one. So also it supports all kinds of alignment. On the same way, save to database, and then your text will be saved to the database. That was how you align your text. If you go to the dashboard, you will see the last modified text, and then click on it, and you will be able to update your alignment, continue working on it. And so here you will be able to export the alignment as XML, or export translation pairs as CSV table. And here alignment geometry, I'm working on it just to see how the 2 sentences are aligned to each other. The tool is provided with dynamic lexicon. So these translation pairs, as you can see, using this network, we can create dynamic lexicon from the translation pairs produced by the alignment. For example, if I want to look for the word die in English, so you will see that die is English word and German word, and could be also Latin word. And here we have error produced by users because they selected it as a Greek word. For example, die is D in German, which is an article. Here you can see its translation in German. Here we have ancient Egyptian. Yes. If we select it as English word, we have this possible translation of the die in English and Arabic and Farsi. Or if it is Latin word, so the accuracy of the translation depends on the accuracy of the annotator on the editor who aligned these texts. So if he aligned the text correctly, then we will get correct translation pairs. If he made some mistakes, so we'll have some mistakes in the dynamic lexicon. So if I take it as English word, die. So we can see how it works. And here examples of and here, as you can see, this word. So and at the end, I will show you a new tool that we added to Ugarit recently, which is if you want to test your translation vocabulary, just select the language you want. For example, English. And then select the destination language, ancient Greek. So, and start the quiz. I have no idea about the ancient Greek. I will just select some random answers. And then when you finish, just finish, you will get your results. So I had one correct answer. Great. Yeah, that was a brief introduction about Ugarit. So
Gary, probably you want to continue with Perseids.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Thanks, Tariq. Let me just share my screen. Sorry, which screen do I want? I want this screen. Okay, can you all hear me okay? Yep. So yeah, I just want very quickly to show another tool which does very similar things to what to the basic translation alignment interface that that Tariq just showed with Ugarit, but it doesn't have most of the very flashy visualization and dynamic lexicon tools that he showed. And this is a tool which is one of the several tools within the Perseids interface, which is part of the Perseids project digital library at Tufts. And So I'm going to show this slightly more basic but functional tool, and I'm going to use it to demonstrate the alignment of two translations of a text. So I've got a Greek text here of an epigraphic poem by Julia Balbile, and I'm going to show how I aligned that Greek text to a French translation from 1960, and then based on the on this alignment, I then produced my own translation, and I'll then attempt, just as a demo, I will show you a very similar interface to what Tariq just showed you of aligning those two translations. And I'll try and do this as quickly as possible, because this is very straightforward. So there's a link to the Perseids tool in the session page, which I'm showing you here. And this takes you to the front page of Perseids. It's worthwhile reading through some of this and getting a sense of the instructions for translation alignment, and just getting a sense of what Perseids is. So I'd recommend having a quick look through this. But once you've had a very quick look, go to the login button here, and this will take you to the Perseids editing interface. This is an interface based on the Sozol editing tool, which we will see again later in this semester for some of the other features that it's used for. And it will go to sign in. And what it will give you is it'll give you this set of options for signing in. If you are already logged in on your computer to an account on one of these sites, then it's a good idea to use that to log in. So I will click on Google because it's my my Google account that I want to use to log in, and we're sorry but something went wrong. Let's refresh and try that again. Okay, I'll just do this quickly and say sign in as. Normally what it would do is it would give you a brief login page, and then it would take you to this interface. So the Perseids interface has the same sorts of features, but a slightly less going on in terms of the complexity of folders and groups and so forth that you saw in Ugarit. So what we have down here is a list of all the documents that I've edited in the past, and these are not only text alignment documents, but there's also some transcriptions from images. There's some tree banks and various other things down here. So these are things that will make sense to you later in the semester. When you log in for the first time, you won't get any of these things because you won't have any previous documents. What you'll do is instead you'll create a new document. You'll go up to here and you'll say new text alignment, and it'll create one. I'll do that in a minute, but first I will show you one that I've done already. So here is my attempt at aligning the Greek, which I just showed you, of this inscription. It might help if I make this a little bit larger for people looking on YouTube, with a French translation from as I say, this is André-Étienne Bernard's translation from about 1960. And so I've only aligned the first couple of sentences here, and what you can see is that when you hover over Eulias, you'll see on the Greek on the left, you'll see that on the right, the French word which corresponds to that is highlighted. Likewise, balbile corresponds to the French balbila. Quand hote écousé to memnonos, these the alignment. So again, we sometimes align more than one word to one word in the other language, or more than one word to more than one word in the other language. You'll also see it's quite a nice visualization that words that remain in red on either side are words that are not translated. So words on the left that are still in red are not translated into the target language on the right, and words that are in red on the right are words that don't correspond to any word in the origin language on the left there. So having gone through this process of aligning the French to the Greek, this gives us a fair sense of how close a translation, how literal a translation, if you like, the French translation. And it is a pretty literal translation in this case. This is a translation in an epigraphic edition, so they're only interested in translating the linguistic meaning of the words and the sentences. They're not attempting to put it into modern French poetry. in this case. So having done this, then I wanted to go back to my home and create a new text alignment, aligning from the Greek to my own English translation of the two. I could have also created my own English translation and then attempted to align my English translation to the French translation just to see how close they were, right? It's not that my English is a translation of the French, but it'd be interesting to see how close the two are. And that's something else you can do with these text alignment tools. So I'm going to create a new text alignment, just clicking on this red button up here. I'll create a short title. My translation of the text, and then the text in language 1. So I'll copy the Greek text here and put it. Now, I'm not going to align the whole thing, obviously, but I'll copy the whole thing in just for the moment. And I will put in the text in language 2, which will not be the French, but the English. I also did this translation fairly quickly, so it's anything but a poetic translation. As we saw with Ugarit, you can also, rather than simply pasting in a text-only version of this translation, you can also enter the URI of a translation that exists somewhere online. And this, again, you can do using the site URN. And this, for example, you can get the site URN of a text in the Perseids digital library, and you can enter the URN in here, and it will go and fetch that text for you. And likewise, you can enter the URN of the translation, and it will go and fetch that for you. So it has automatically detected that I'm translating from ancient Greek to English, or maybe it's just guessing, in fact, because it thought I was going from Greek to English when I was going from Greek to French. But I think it's just guessing. Those are the default values. But then you select any other language from that list, and then select align at the bottom right there. And this gives you that same interface that we saw a minute ago. Right, but with no alignments done at all. So everything's in red because it's not aligned yet. So we can start aligning. To align these texts, we have slightly less options than was shown in Ugarit by Tariq. What we have instead is you simply select first a word in one language just by clicking on it once. Then you go over to the other language and click on as many words as you want to align to that word. So I'm just going to click on Julia there. You can go back to the first language, select the next word, and select how many words you want to select on that. In this case, it's only one. Okay, but if we wanted to align two words to a single word over there, we could either select first Ho and Augustus, and then Sebastos and Augustus, and it would then align them as a group, or we'd start from the other side for when we're working with how do I do this? How do I unselect a word? I guess I go back to something that's already selected. So we select Hadrian and then Hadrian. No, I'm not sure how, I don't know if anyone who's more used to this interface, if I wanted to select a word on the right and align it to something on the left, I'd have to unselect first, right? Anyway, it's easy enough to work from the left to right. So I can go from one word on the left to multiple words on the right. I can select Punthanoman and I had learned as a phrase. But for multiple words on the left to one word on the right, I have to do them in multiple groups, as I just showed. And there's something else I was going to talk about. Yes, so the punctuation you can align as well. So the punctuation at the end of that sentence, you can align to the full stop at the end of that sentence, because punctuation obviously doesn't always match from the translation to the source. Depending on how literal it is, there may be full stops where there are, you know, commas in the other language, or there may be commas in one language where there are none in the other language. So you will see the punctuation remaining in red in that case. And so you can, you know, you can align as much as you want. Say heard to memnonos, both aligning to memnon. So I've aligned all of that first sentence, right? The from is problematic because it's inherent in the genitive case of the name Julia Balbilla, but it doesn't belong to any one of those words. In a sense, it belongs to both of them, right? So we could align both Julia and Balbilla to from. But that would then create one big alignment just of Julias Balbillas to from Julia Balbilla, which would be true, but we then lose granularity. No longer Julia was Julias and Balbilla was Balbillas. So this is a decision you have to make when you're making an alignment. How much granularity are you going to include in the translation? So this is basically the interface, and as I say, this is just as one of the exercises we're going to set. If you can log into this system and start aligning any two texts of your choice, and see how well the interface works. See what you learn by doing this as part of the process of aligning, and see what this tells you about the translation, what it tells you about the text, and so forth. And if you want to, you can also have a go. I think it's open to create new accounts, and you can have a go with Ugarit as well and compare the two and see how the experience compares with aligning in one language and the other. But I'll hand back to Maryam now, who's going to talk a little bit about the second exercise, which is working with Hafez, this author that Saman was telling us about at the beginning.
Sure. So yeah, I think that we can skip the Saman's part here, because he wanted to talk more about the concepts of translation studies, and specifically based on cultural specific items. So what he has done was a research about the Sufi terms in the Divan of Hafez. So I just go quickly and briefly who Hafez is, what is Sufism, and I upload Saman's talk in the GitHub. So if you want to know more about the theories behind that and the concepts behind that, you can go to the GitHub and download the audio files. So Hafez is the poet in Persian literature. So he's the biggest, I would say, the biggest poet in the Persian literature in 14th century. And so many scholars believe that he was a Sufi. And I think that Saman also believes this. It's not how I believe, but so I don't want to discuss that. But Sufism, so in a sense, means so an attempt to deal with Quranic revelation, and so bringing hidden meaning of Islam out of its legalistic religion, and so the Sufis believe that Sufism is acting according to God's order. So the problem here is that, so when the translators want to work with text, so you remember Saman was talking about cultural terms. So when you work with a literal text, with a literary text, it means that you have to deal with their culture-specific features. which doesn't necessarily are so obvious in the target culture. So the translator needs, first of all, understand it. Although it could be, there is always a problem that, so we are working with classical works. So that it means that when we work with Hafez text from 14th century, the meaning of the words change in this period. So the translator needs, first of all, understand how this word meant in that, so in 14th century, for example, and then try to convey the meaning. So the point is that, so conveying the meaning, what the poet really meant, is not always easy. So for Saman has worked on Ugarit's translation of Hafez. I don't want to discuss that. He has discussed it in his recording, but he has picked two Sufi terms. The one is the word Saki, which means literally means cupbearer, and the mystical meaning is the perfect mankind, and also the word love. And he has seen how this word has been translated into English. But the point is that he mentions, so he could just work on 14 poems. Why it is difficult? Because you need, as a translator or as a scholar in translation studies, you need to go through all the words and compare it with the translations, and then come up with some idea, and it depends if you could find any pattern or not. So you know, it's always difficult, and you cannot also see, you cannot follow if the translator was consistent or depending on the context, translator has decided to pick other words or other equivalences, and these all is just for one translation. But when we have the word alignment, what we can do is beyond these borders. So I want to show you, so here you have seen two words, Saki and love. And here I have two examples, exactly these examples. So I have in the dynamic lexicon, the data behind it is the English and German alignment, the Persian and English alignment, done by Saman himself. I reviewed it, and Tariq has made this awesome interface. So here we look for the word, and like in few seconds we have all instances of this word in the corpus, and we see how this word has been translated, and we also see this word in the context. So the work that Saman has, for example, done in 6 months, I have done just in few seconds. And again, we can, so here we see that in this chart, we see that, yes, so beside two, like I would call them distractors, all the words, all of these instances has been translated to Saki. So the translator, we see that translator has preferred to transliterate the word and didn't convey any meaning. Probably he thought that this word could be seen as a proper noun, however. And now I go for the second example, which is love. And here again in this pie chart, you see that it has been always translated to love. And here you see that so the co-occurrences, and you can also, when you go to the word love, I will show you, so this part, so you can see that the occurrences of this word, and again here, for example, you see this word in context, and again immediately you see that, okay, so we have the phrase for God here, which is not aligned, which means, as Gabriel said, so the ones in the target sentence which are not aligned, which are read, refer to the phrases that has So we call them, in translation studies, we call them paraphrases, which don't have any equivalence in the source text. And we go and see other instances, and we see, yes, it always comes with paraphrases which refers to God, here, him with capital H. So it immediately, here again, love to God, it immediately gives us an idea about the approach of this translator, which interprets the love mentioned by Hafez always by love to God. So as I said, I don't want to discuss this. I just want to give you some ideas how word alignment could be used in the research, specifically in translation studies. And here I said, so you can also look for the love and see this word is the translation of these words here. So you have an idea, okay, I learned synonyms, if you can read that. And then here in co-occurrences, you always see that it has something with, so with which words it always comes. Of course, with God, although it's not aligned, but because since it's looking in the target text, it brings the co-occurrences and the part line, so it all gives us information. And this all has been done by translation alignment at word level. But as Tariq mentions, we always need some manual alignment and how we can create that. So the point is, and that's an introduction to the second exercise if you want to do that. So the point is that we can produce data by the users who, or citizen scientists, I would say, who don't speak the source language, how it could be done. So here is your exercise, and I want you, if you want to do this exercise, do the same method, use the same method and go for that. So you can, as Tariq showed you, you can create an account in Ugarit for yourself and then go to the three-language alignment or also two-language alignment. However, how it is easier for you. You copy the Persian text and also copy the Latin translation. And here you go to the first word and you can see how it is spelled with the help of the transliteration, and you see how this word has been aligned with the English text. So you have an idea how this phrase means in English. And since you also know Latin, now you can search for the equivalence of whole in Latin, which I think it should be all, and so on. So you move forward, you look for the words, see the translation into English, and then find the Latin translation and try to align it with the Latin translation. What happens here? So since you don't know the language, you always need to think about the part of speeches, the structure of the language. Where is the predicate? How is the noun described? If this word has the same translation in English or in German or in Latin, sorry. So, and also you can also specify which words. It's more like a puzzle. You can see which words have been aligned, which words haven't been aligned. Okay, so I have a word here in Persian which is not aligned, and I have a noun here in Latin, so probably they go together, and so on. So if you want to do the exercise, it makes sense that you, with all of your awareness, think about the structure of the Persian text and look for the same structure or the adapted structure in the Latin translation. I have heard that the Latin translation is a free translation. It doesn't, so it's not a problem because the English translation is a very literal translation, so you have the very first meaning of the word in the English translation. And so I want to say that this kind of exercise should have should help you to have an idea about the words in Persian. So when you do this exercise, this type of exercise, you probably learn something. So I have done a research, and I can say that the data, so the research was made by Germans who didn't speak any kind of Persian, and they have done the same process, just instead of the Latin text, they had the German text. And I want to show you this diagram with this line chart, which refers to the accuracy of the alignment data set. I have suggested a paper in the reading. So if you go for that, you will know what the recall precision, F-score, and alignment error rate is. And here you see that the obtained scores by Germans and Iranians, the blue lines and the orange lines, are very similar to each other. And in some cases, the Germans had a better performance than Iranians, although they didn't know any kind of they didn't have any kind of knowledge in Persian. And also the user engagement. So I haven't analyzed the learning effect still, but I have compared the user engagement with digital flashcards. I asked users to work with alignment and also to work with digital flashcards. And you see that, so the average time spent on translation alignments in a time period of 60 minutes was 58 minutes, which means that so all the users, 40 users, wanted to continue working on the alignment, but they have dropped after. So they have stopped working with digital flashcards after 14 minutes, which means that the user engagement is significantly higher than the digital flashcards. So that was this part. If you have questions, you are more than welcome to write us, and we will be happy to answer your questions. If there is a question here, so I'm also glad to discuss. So yeah.
Thank you, Maryam. That was great. And yeah, with apologies for the collapse in the middle, which was probably my fault.
No problem.
That was yeah, that was really useful. Does anyone else here have any questions or comments to add to this?
I think
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say something. Maybe it's like we wanted to stop at 6. It's now almost 6:30, so I have talked too much.
No, sure. I mean, that was because of the technical problem we had in the middle, I think, that lost a lot of time. But I mean, it's also because there's quite a few people have left the Hangout, and no one, as far as I can see, has asked any questions on YouTube yet. But if anyone sees any questions on there, do report them back to us. But no, I was just going to ask a question which I think was partly answered, but I wonder if there's a more general response to, which is that when if you've brought your own text to a tool like Ugarit or Hafez and Perseids, and you've aligned your text and translation, or two texts in different languages, what can you then do with it? How do you publish or disseminate that aligned translation that you've created? What sorts of strategies are available for doing that?
Now it's possible to have a link to your alignment. So I can show you, for example, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. For example, this alignment produced by Maryam. Here you can see there is a link. It's a unique link for this alignment. So you can use this link for now. Because this visualization is interactive, so we cannot export it as PDF or as CSV. It's possible to export it as XML or I don't know. Now we have only these two possibilities, but we are open for any suggestions, so we can implement any kind of output format. So
yeah. So at the moment, then you're as a user. So if I've just created a new aligned translation, the main solution, which is to do my translation in this tool, and then to link people to it, to do my alignment in this tool and link people to it. This depends, of course, on your goodwill on keeping this online, right, and your project remaining funded and so forth. If your website ceases to be functional, then my publication has disappeared. So it's a fabulous resource, but it's if I wanted to publish it, if I wanted to take it away and publish it somewhere which was under my control, for that we don't currently have a solution. You can download the XML
exactly
behind the alignment and build your own tool to visualize it elsewhere.
Exactly.
But I don't want to have to build a new visualization tool. So
so
at the moment we're still.
For example, we imported the text from an XML format from the Tufts repository, because they have aligned some text automatically using GZA++. So we just use the XML files, we convert them into our format, and we put them in our database. And also, if you have any text aligned by Alpheus or Perseids, so we can also import it here, not only for visualization, but also for the dynamic lexicon. So, for example, if you have something in Greek, in French, we can import it, and that will enrich our dynamic lexicon. So it's not only about visualization, but also about dictionaries and dynamic lexicon.
Yes, and that's obviously incredibly valuable. That's the coolest thing about this. I mean, that's the reason I want to use Ugarit to do this alignment, is that, then any work that I've done contributes to this ongoing lexicon, which I think is then incredibly powerful. Yeah.
And I think that I think that the problem of like some standards for the output of the alignment is that I think it's the same like tree banking. So every institution with its own tools for tree banking requires a specific format for uploading the text to visualize it. Right. And I think that the same is for alignment. So here it works with XML, like the XML format, the CTS you're in, with CTS compliant XML, I would say, and also in Perseids it's the same. But probably if you have your own data and want to upload it in other with other visualizations, you probably need to adapt it to the required schema.
Right. And that's a very important point then. That's because this is a very young and in some ways immature discipline, the digital alignment. We don't yet have shared standards that because obviously we can't be the only people doing translation alignment in the world, right? It might just be Leipzig and Tufts. There's all sorts of other people doing this. But there's no shared standards between us. And this is something which presumably comes, right? I mean, if people have been doing this for 10 years or more, people will start to want to exchange their data more. People will start using more standard formats for this.
I think it's a good point to think about it. I mean, we are the users. We are the most users of translation alignment, and we have Simona here, so she can also help us standardize it, the format. And I think that at some point we should start taking a much shared standards.
Yeah. But I mean, in the first instance, we want to get it right, and we want to have a proof of concept, and and show, as you guys are, and show a lot of the value and the importance of this, and that's the sort of thing which will encourage shared standards, I think.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing I will need to think of is the evaluation, because you have seen, so as far as Tariq had control on the alignment, so I mean, in the beginning it was like this, that the number of users were very limited, and we knew who is aligning, and the data was clean. But now that it is open, we have users, and then they align in a way, or they like do some mistakes, and when we are on dynamic lexicon, as Tariq mentioned, then we have some results which are not correct because of the incorrect alignments of the other users. So I think that it's very necessary that we think about evaluation and decide which data could be published and which one should be eliminated, or so how the evaluation approach should be.
Yeah. So at the moment, if I were to create an account on Ugarit and add a new text, a Greek and English alignment, such as the one that I'm currently doing in Hafez, and align it, would that immediately be contributing to your dynamic lexicon, or would someone have to okay it first?
It's automatically will be added to the dynamic lexicon.
Okay. So I better not mess up too badly then. Yeah.
And if you have any text in Alpheus or Perseids and you want to have a copy of it also on Ugarit, we can upload it here, and you can have both of them on Alpheus or also on Ugarit.
Because they use the same XML format, or
we are using the same XML format.
Okay, so I can export XML and then import that XML.
No, now you cannot import XML, so you need to send them to me because I have in the backend like converter from XML. I mean the output, the export option, we export them in the same format, but we save them in the database in different format, not in the same.
Okay. So at the moment, it's not something that can be done from the interface. But
exactly. So you send me the link to the alignment or the XML files, and then I can import them and put them in your name. Okay.
Right. Sure. Cool. Thank you. Yeah. I think it'll be a lot of fun to play with both of these interfaces and see what the possibilities are. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? If not, we might finish soon. No. In which case, then I'll thank Maryam and Tariq and Saman again, and no thanks to me for using a laptop on which Chrome crashed halfway through and closed down the YouTube video. But we'll end this session here. As I say, next week the session will be on collaborative editing, and it will be presented by myself and by Emma Bridges and Lucia Vanini, who are both also at the Institute of Classical Studies. And so the links for that will go online very shortly. So thank you all very much for joining, and see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.